Welcome back to Teacher Quit Talk. I'm Miss Redacted, I'm here with Miss Frazzled, and I'll let our guest introduce herself.
I'm Ashley, sometimes known as Forward with Fun.
Yay!
I'm very excited to be here.
I am so excited that you are here. I was obsessed with you before you were even a social media account. Like, I was following you just as a human. You were a Pinterest mom before you were a Pinterest mom, like for real.
Oh, thank you. It's so hard to think of myself as a Pinterest mom, but yeah, and I feel like Pinterest gets a bad rap of like trying to make everything look perfect. But I love Pinterest because it's been a really like innocent way to share a lot of ideas without inviting a lot of mean criticism.
I think that's brilliant.
I feel like Pinterest is one of the last frontiers of the internet where it's still relatively anonymous. Like, Pinterest is one of the few places where you can just get pretty like straightforward things, where there's still like an element of purity to Pinterest, and it's not like, oh, I'm actually gonna like come to your house because I hate the fact that you posted that.
Not like TikTok, where that's pretty standard.
Yeah, that scares me. No, Pinterest is great. It's far away, but it's also intentional because usually, except with the newer idea pins that they've been having, there's always a link to something. So it comes with a blog post where somebody purposely wrote that and knows a little bit more than just like, oh, well, my neighbor said this or that. It's very intentional and curated.
It was definitely my first venture into learning things on the internet. The medium is so easy. Like, after Tumblr, Pinterest just made sense to me to like look at pictures and quotes and categorize them. And I have the most off-the-wall things from my early teaching days. There's a lot of chevron and burlap.
Yeah.
I love the TikTok trend where people that got married, we'll say 10 plus years ago, who had like very Pinterest weddings, are posting the pictures of their aggressively Pinterest weddings. And it's really funny to see like how fast everything changes style-wise.
Absolutely.
I should do that. Pinterest wedding is a must-have. Like, that was the reason to use Pinterest when I first got on there. And I remember it was one of my room moms was like, have you heard of this thing called Pinterest? You can pin ideas to boards. And I was like, I don't understand this. And then I saw the wedding stuff and I was in.
Yeah.
I'm going to dream this up. I did have a person in mind already, but
You're like, I absolutely need a bedazzled cake.
100%. Twinkly lights everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe my dress would also need twinkly lights. Everything twinkly.
I love a light up dress. Like, if Disney can do it, why can't you have it at your wedding?
You can do anything you want at your wedding.
It's your wedding.
Unless you're me.
Like hay bales.
Oh my god.
Hay bales were very Pinterest.
Yes.
This is so niche, but I remember my grandparents lived in this small town, and one time this old guy was complaining because like youths were coming onto his land to take pictures with his hay bales for the internet, and he was like, they're not a prop, those are difficult to make.
And they were expensive to transport.
He was just gatekeeping hay bales. He was like, these kids are climbing, taking their little photos.
I bet they were planking on them too, since that was probably the same time period.
Like, challenges.
Not planking, don't bring that up. Do you want to have your day ruined real quick?
Yeah.
Think about us looking back on this podcast in 10 or 15 years.
Oh.
Think about how that's going to feel.
Everything I do. I mean, that's the thing that age has brought me. Like, the way that Gen Z is dressing right now, I'm like, that is gonna age like milk.
Whenever we look back at pictures, like from the 80s, from the 90s, the hair, the makeup, the clothes, whatever, that's so stereotypical for the time. And we're like, oh my God, that's so crazy. I can't believe they wore that. And because it's like so emblematic of that time. When that picture was taken, that was the fucking it girl look.
Oh, yeah.
So for you to be the it girl, you have to sacrifice your later self. That's the sacrifice you have to make.
Like the Anastasia brow.
Yes. Oh my God. The Anastasia brow.
When I was in 7th grade, the cool thing was to wear like a bandana and just tie it in the back. And my 7th grade yearbook photo, I'm wearing lime green velvet shirt that's like a zip up, which could come back now. Maybe somebody's wearing it as we speak.
I would wear that today.
But a lime green velvety flower printed bandana that matched the exact shade, but it is so awful. And I really thought I looked amazing.
I bet you did.
You did. I would wear that
I
outfit.
feel like there's so many moments like that where I've looked back and been like, that wasn't a good look, but it was such a good look.
Yes. At the time, I was in my moment.
Yeah.
No regrets.
Did you guys do the handkerchief also? Instead of on your head, then it like moved down onto your body and it was a shirt that was a handkerchief?
That's fully back right now.
My mom did not want me to do that.
My mom was into it. She was like, yeah, here.
I am jealous of everyone that can participate in that trend because it just like my body type said no to that immediately. And it looks so cute. I'm like, no, like physically will not tie.
Oh, I think we had ones that had these little holes and then there was a tie that would tie it.
That's what we need.
I remember like the last day of some grade, I had it under my shirt as a rebellion, and then bell rang and I like pulled it off and I was like, yeah, I'm wearing this not allowed shirt at school.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
bad.
incredible.
I loved wearing not allowed stuff at school. On the last day of school, when I was in like 10th or 11th grade, girls weren't allowed to wear running shorts to school, but boys were. So we were like always up in arms about it because they were like, it's not a gendered rule, it's based on length. But you know, like the way they make girls shorts are like shorter than they make boys shorts usually.
Right.
And so all the girls were like, if we all wear running shorts, they can't dress code all of us. And it was early release on the last day of school. So we were like, this is totally gonna work. Nah. They took every single one of us, put us all in the gym, and gave us numbers like we were at a deli to get dress coded and call our parents one by one to bring us pants.
Oh my God.
That's a baller move. As a teacher, I respect it. As a student, awful.
I remember my Latin teacher was like, yeah, keep doing this.
I don't think I've ever seen anything so egregious that I've ever dress coded a kid. I feel like it's hilarious that they were like, no, we're going to have this power struggle right now.
Definition of a power struggle.
You know how like you have your friend group and like adjacent, there's like this Venn diagram.
Periphery friend groups.
The periphery friend group had the idea they should all get drunk on the last day of school because they can't all get in trouble.
You definitely can.
They definitely
it's
did.
possible.
Yeah, they were like, you're not walking in graduation.
Like in the morning before they went? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's harsh. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Silly gooses.
This is why you're in friend group B. Case in point, right now.
I hope that you did call them silly gooses.
You're like, you silly gooses with your underage alcohol consumption.
Believe me, I was in somebody's field. I was definitely not making fun of them for drinking alcohol. Just I was like, why are you doing it at school, dumbasses?
People are always surprised to hear this, but I was very straight edge, like aggressively straight edge.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was straight edge for only the term of time before I was invited to do anything bad. And then the second I was invited to a party, I was like, oh, I'm not that anymore. I was thrilled. I think to be straight edge, you have to like actively try not to partake.
I was definitely straight edge. I was so straight edge. The first time I was invited to a party where there was alcohol, it was like maybe 10:30, and I called my dad and I said, I need you to come pick me up because there are substances here that we're not supposed to have. And I just remember looking back on that kid. My parents had so many restrictions on me and none on my little sister, but I was the best kid. And now as a mom, I'm like, there's no child of mine that's going to be that straight edge. Like, there's no way I'm going to get that kid as my kid. But I would have liked me as a kid.
Absolutely.
I was such a good listener.
My parents had no rules, and I could have gotten away with murder. Like, the way I was absolutely unmonitored, but I was a workaholic, so I was not at parties because I was like, oh, I'm at work. Always working.
What was your high school?
In a restaurant, working at all times.
At a restaurant. I worked at Baskin Robbins as my high school. Very short-term job.
You mean you didn't want to make the Baskin Robbins career path for you?
I didn't, and I used to be terrible at the yogurt machine. Then Pinkberry comes a couple years later, and I was a master.
Do you guys remember the frozen yogurt craze when for a time there, like literally every other storefront was a frozen yogurt store?
Mm-hmm. I
Tell me why my husband was just talking about this.
Because it's important.
I lived in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and we never had one. So the first time I ever saw one was there's one called 16 Handles in New York City, and I was obsessed. I thought it was the coolest thing you've ever seen because I had never seen anything.
It's amazing. I'm still into the froyo situation.
Oh yeah, so good.
I'm still a fan. It's always good. But life hack for anyone on a budget, my sister discovered this, so gotta give the cred to her. When she was in college, she would go to froyo places and just put fruit in the cup to get cheap fruit without having to buy like a giant thing because she had a mini fridge. And she said that they got really mad at her and told their manager, and the manager was like, well, technically, it's build your own. Like, if she wants to just get strawberries and pineapples, that's fine. So if you want fruit, but you have a limited space and funds, just rob a frozen yogurt place.
Work that teacher budget.
It's the Department of Education's new stance for teachers to maintain a healthy diet. Please start doing your grocery shopping at your local Pinkberry.
I hate this place.
Yeah.
Ashley, let's talk about your teaching career. How did you teach? What's going on there?
Tell us everything.
Okay, I started teaching in 2010. I taught TK back before TK was like a really big thing that everybody knew about. TK stands for Transitional Kindergarten. And for us, they basically said, this is kindergarten and the kids are going to do kindergarten again. So teach it as if you want them to have learned all the kindergarten standards with you, and then they're going to learn it in a new way. And if they didn't master it, that's fine, because they're going to have this other chance. And it was the best job. I was at such an incredible school, and I taught for 4 years there, and then I took a long break, and now I'm back and I'm an interventionist in kindergarten, specifically at a very large school where my kid also goes. So I'm kind of living this dream life of being able to go to school with my kid, and then next year I'll have both my kids at my school, and I'm teaching specifically the grade that I love and adore, which is kindergarten, and getting to use all of my skills from that.
I am so jealous. I think that is the coolest journey. What a dream.
It is a dream. They were like, hey, we really need substitutes. Do you think you could substitute? I heard that you used to teach or something. It ended up being so perfect. But first I was like, I don't know if I could sub. And then I got roped into subbing. I subbed one day, and my wonderful principal was like, I actually have something you're going to like way more, but it's every day. And she really pointed out that it would give me the balance of like mommy life, but also being able to teach again. And I think my online Pinterest stuff and my online like kindergarten curriculum that I created really gave me the confidence that I needed to go back into teaching after not being there for a long time, to say, yeah, I am an expert in this. I actually know what I'm talking about. You can bring me your kid and they will leave reading. Like, I got this. Not in one day.
Never.
Well, not with that attitude.
I think though, when I left, the time span of me being gone from teaching to then jumping into during COVID, I started creating all this curriculum to share online for families and on social media. I did not feel like I had the skills anymore to do what I was doing. And that's definitely not the case. I know we talk a lot about like returning to teaching, if that's something that teachers want to do, and they definitely can. And it comes back. It's like riding a bike. And there's also so many new things, and having really good colleagues that trust you and want you to participate, that helps you pick up on things that you might have missed in the years before. So I'm really fortunate to have all of those supports in place. Awesome colleagues who are like, yes, and here's this other thing that happened while you were gone for 8 years.
Yes, totally.
I want to hear about what you did in those 8 years with your Pinterest fame and your creating curriculum, and apparently just like holding the American education system together.
Definitely not. Yes. I didn't do that much. I went to work with my dad in real estate for a while, and then I created my own leasing company that was really helpful for me to have like flexibility, because I ended up, and I kind of knew this was going to happen, needing fertility treatments in order to get pregnant. I was still subbing for my friends because my previous school was so awesome, and they'd be like, I can't get a sub, can you come? So I would come down, and I was on a sub job for 3 days, and on the third day, wasn't at school, but I hated not going and completing my sub job with my previous students. And so it was just a lot of grieving that situation afterwards, and then starting fertility again. And all of this is so stressful as a teacher, because if I were in my own classroom and I have friends who have gone through fertility issues and been classroom teachers, finding a sub and not getting reamed for the number of days that you have to leave. And you don't get to pick what day that this is going to be, like when your endometrial layer is the thickest or whatever. You know, it's not a flexible situation. And so I was really blessed to be in a job where I could be like, I got to go do this right now and focus on that. And I knew that I wanted to stay at home mom for a little while. And I continued leasing when I had my first kid, and it was just going so crazy because I'm a super people pleaser kind of person. I wanted everyone to like me. I wonder if there's anybody else like that here.
Me too.
Maybe some other people, even within this podcast, might relate to that.
We love when people like us.
Yeah. I feel so seen whenever you mention it on the podcast, because that is so me too. And I was trying to control people's experiences of apartments when they're going through really difficult times in their lives, and they're calling about crazy stuff that I cannot control. Or it was just, I felt so icky, as opposed to at school when I was a teacher, I literally had like such joy with these children. These parents were awesome. They were super involved. I felt like I was a celebrity on the campus every day, and people would call me to say nice things, or I just want you to know you're like a third parent to our child, like things that meant so much. And I still carry those things with me today. So then I was going from that to this other very flexible job that was more lucrative, but just not having that joy and not having any education in it. I felt very powerless. And so when I had my second kid, I was like, ooh, I'm taking a break from this too, and I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom for a while. Then COVID happened.
As someone who went from education to real estate, it is a hard drop-off of joy to yelling.
Yes.
A lot more yelling.
Especially when you want people to like you.
Exactly. I'm like, oh my God, stop yelling. I'm sorry it didn't sell. Like, it's going to be okay. Can you just be excited about the email signature? Like, I understand you lost $1 million. But can we get excited?
Let's change our perspective, please. So I feel like COVID is really when I started to get to know you and like everything that you were doing just from like me teaching at home. I was really excited because you started sharing all of these hands-on activities for the age group that I was teaching.
Once COVID started, I had a 1.5-year-old and a just about 4-year-old at home, and she was going to miss the end of her pre-K year. And I thought, this is my time with her to make it count. And I felt lucky that of all of the grades of school that she was going to miss, it was before elementary, and that it was a year where I'm like, I know this year. So I started my Instagram Forward with Fun. It was originally called Quarantini Tots, just to share with my friends, like, here's how I'm going to entertain my kids at home. Because when COVID first happened, they're like, you'll have to be at home for 2 weeks. And that was like a death sentence to me. I thought there's no way I could be trapped in a house with them for 2 weeks and have to entertain them, because I was like at the zoo, at the park, play date, all in one day. I never stopped for a second.
When you stop is when the children get you.
Yes.
You got to keep them on the move.
It was terrifying.
You got to keep them booked and bothered.
100%. And so that they cannot like totally mess up your whole house. Because once they start walking, Fraz, they're going to...
Exactly. Like, they will rip the walls from inside and then destroy all of your items. They're great.
They're great. Everybody should have kids, but also don't have them. No, they were so awesome. But like, they also don't have good self-preservation instinct.
To say the very least.
They're like, the counter seems like an amazing jumping off point. If I could just get up there.
My child's trying to face plant out of her crib because she sees the dog down there, and all she's thinking is, oh, well, I want to be where he is as fast as possible. Yeah, self-preservation is definitely not a strong suit. Being trapped with children that are not only mobile, but like fully...
trying to harm themselves.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot.
It was a lot. I was really stressed out. So I was in that situation thinking 2 weeks is going to be hell. And then thinking, wow, I really like children and I choose to spend my time with children generally. Like, what are the other parents going to do? Maybe I could share some ideas online, because a lot of my friends were like, oh gosh, what if my kid is going to be behind now? And just the fact that they thought that shows that they're not going to be behind, because their parents were worried about what they're accomplishing in pre-K. So way to go to those parents.
Same thing I said to mine.
Yes. The parents were dealing with so much though in that time, and I was lucky I wasn't working, but trying to work while entertaining your kid or this or that. We're having to use more screens and things were getting a little bit crazy, and it was a really stressful time.
Side note, during like 2020, pretty early on, my friend was trying to work from home with her children present. She was like talking to her manager about it, because her manager was like, you really haven't been productive. You've missed a couple deadlines. Like, what's going on? And she was like, I just am really having a hard time getting stuff done because the kids are always around me. They always need something. I just don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. She lives in New York, so her kids are like 2 inches away from her at all times. And her out of touch ass boss goes, you just have to shut that office door and focus. She was like, what is this door that you're speaking of? We don't have a door around here. So I really don't know how parents homeschooled.
I don't know. We were so lucky to have space. My husband continues to work from home, and he does have his own room to work from. And yet still, my older daughter would bust in on his meetings, maybe not fully clothed, and be like, Dad! But like, when you're doing your work at your kitchen table, of course you're going to see naked babies. And that's just part of life. They're going to be there. They're going to be screaming. It's going to be loud. It is what it is.
It is what it, and you're getting that look into people's houses. Things are just going to happen.
Yeah.
I saw somebody's naked grandma once.
Ooh, you're like Rocket Queen.
Good for you, girl.
Amazing.
Anyway.
So these parents that were being held hostage by their children, you were there to create resources to entertain the children. How do you entertain a kid of that age?
So many ways. But what I thought was the parents who are really worried about their academic development are also probably working or they have other things going on. So what if I could just teach kids how to read and do arithmetic and all the kindergarten skills in only 20 minutes a day with like a game or a hands-on activity that's really engaging? Because a lot of my friends were going to Teachers Pay Teachers, really smart. They were looking up like packets and worksheets, and then they're like, oh, he doesn't want to do it. It's so boring. My kid hates learning. And I thought, okay, well, I don't want them to ever hate learning, but especially not when they have their whole lives ahead of them where they're supposed to be going to school and enjoying it and thriving and blossoming. So what can I do to make learning the most fun? And let's take this negative where we're not in a classroom, which is the ideal setting for students whose parents chose that, and take that one-on-one time with the parent and really focus on these skills and try to see if we can meet the most important standards. Obviously not replace like a whole kindergarten year, but let's get them reading. Let's get them to learn their alphabet sounds and do all these phonemic awareness skills. And so I started sharing a couple ideas of hands-on games. For example, I was like, oh, everybody has Post-its, so let's do a ton of stuff with Post-its, like put a bunch of alphabet letters on the wall, not the whole alphabet, pick out the letters the kids don't know, and get your fly swatter, and now we're going to call out letter names and hit the letters, and then now we're going to call out letter sounds, and now we're going to say words that start with those letters, and they have to hit them, and kids love that. They have permission to hit something. Who doesn't love that, right? Now let's use the Post-its for something else, like a letter hunt through the house or a relay race where they have to match numbers on the Post-it notes. And how can we make this affordable with the stuff you already have? Because I wasn't going to the grocery store and it was hard to get a delivery to my house, and make it fun for the kids. And I also really wanted to bring a piece of education to the parents about how to assess your child, how to use the information of what they know and don't know to inform what you work on with them, so that you're not wasting time on stuff they already know and like freaking out about putting the whole alphabet on the wall. They probably know these letters, so let's focus on the next 6 or whatever. So that was how it started. And then a friend called me and said, I think you could make this into a business, and what if we make it a subscription service where parents will get weekly emails and they can subscribe month by month to get these hands-on learning activities, because all you really have to do is just read the instructions, and then if you have the Post-it notes and the blue tape or whatever, then you can teach and you get these fun moments with your kids, and you also have like your teacher toolbox, of ideas to use to entertain them that are screen free, because we're going to be using the screens for other stuff, babysitting while we're having our meetings.
Absolutely. Like, I cannot overstate for anybody listening how involved kindergarten parents are, just because it's typically the first venture that their child has into the public education world, and it can be very scary. It's like, are they going to be able to read? Are they going to be behind? And I would be like, if everybody's quote unquote behind, then nobody is behind, because
right.
we are all home. There's not like a handful of kids that are in the classroom and you're not missing out on anything. Like,
behind what?
Right. I love how you used things that are already on hand. The things that you put out are so intentional and manageable. It's just smart teaching at home, and I think it's really cool.
I also love that you're not like, here's 900 things you have to buy.
Yeah, oh my
because
God.
I feel like so often when you look things up online, the first couple things you click, you're like, well, I don't have that, I don't have that, I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of things are just so involved.
Yeah.
Social media is a part of that too, with wanting things to like look a certain way with all these cool colors and supplies and matchy and whatever. So I think it's like a really needed thing for people to just have things you can put together relatively quickly with stuff you have around you and not have to waste like time, money, gas, materials, all of that.
Yeah, for sure. If people were going to subscribe to this, I tried to make it like the most minimal, and then that's where we went from there. And so I had to really be creative with the materials that I had, and it ended up being so great because I was able to create all of these things for others, but also do it with my kids. And my then 1.5, 2-year-old started jumping in on the games, and suddenly she knew all her letters and I barely taught her, and that's not the goal for 2-year-olds to know that. But if it was like a side benefit of this, it was so awesome because I was unintentionally setting her up for success. And what I didn't anticipate was that I created a little Facebook group so I could pick the brains of the parents that were doing it. I want to say parents, but it was all moms. Somebody yelled at me about my website saying like, hey, moms, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, it could be dads too. I'm like, yeah, but it's not.
Yeah. Like, well, then where are they?
Yeah.
Are the dads in the room with us right now?
Yeah.
There are definitely dads that do a lot of educative stuff with their kids, but they're not here in this program.
Yeah, we address no men in this podcast because there's like 12 of them that watch, so.
Hey, men.
What's up, man?
I'm going to make my husband listen to it, though. So that'll be one more.
He's a part of the
more.
5%.
If you're a man, leave your favorite emoji in the comments section right now.
We don't think you're here.
If you're a woman, if you're non-binary, leave an emoji to describe men.
We'll be waiting.
Amazing.
Let's see who wins.
Anyway.
So the moms.
You're saying on Facebook you are picking the brains of the moms in the program.
They were like, yeah, I need this to be short. I need it to be quick. And I need my kid to absolutely love it or it's a no-go. And so they would kind of tell me like, this one didn't work, toss it. Or I want something that's more like this other thing that we did. And it was so helpful. And I ended up having unexpectedly a lot of teachers, even like primary school teachers, join the program because they're like, well, I don't know kindergarten. I know first grade and I want to make sure my kid can do all of these things in this year that we're missing. And I was like, cool, well, that's a vote of confidence. And it was really helpful to me to feel like my own people were saying like, yes, you are creating good stuff and it is needed in this world. Because it's kind of lonely on your own when you're just like, I'm going to hustle and I'm going to make this into a thing. And you don't really get face to face with those people that you're serving.
Totally.
I also don't know why my brain envisioned this, but when you were saying how the moms were telling you what their kids were liking and not liking, I was envisioning like a 4 or 5-year-old, how like style blogger, like this season, what's in is stickers, fly swatters, the color purple. What's out is magic Play-Doh, sand. It just makes me laugh to think about like little kids being that discerning of their like made just for you engaging learning games where they're like, the sticker one was good, but the fly swatter one was better.
You would be shocked.
I want that feedback.
I feel like 5-year-olds have given me that feedback.
Oh, 100%.
And they've been like, that doesn't really work, miss.
Last year, I was teaching my daughter's class, and I was so excited because it was the first time that she was going to be in one of my groups. I created this awesome, it was a forward with fun activity that I brought, and I prepped. There were Post-its, and they had to do a word search around the room, pick up their word, I think like categorize it to the word family and stick it on there, but they got to run around the room, and it was awesome. I 100% still believe in this activity. And at the end, I had all the kids sit down on the rug and I go, okay, you know, this is really exciting for me to be able to teach in your classroom. I want to know how you felt about this activity. Is this something you would want to do again? If you really like it, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. And if it was just okay, give me a sideways thumb. And every kid was like, thumbs up. And my daughter is like, middle thumb. Meh.
Oh my. See, that's the thing.
It's probably because she knows your true potential. And she's like, I've seen you at your best, and this was not it.
We needed 24 fly swatters. What were you doing, Mom? I told you the color purple for Post-its.
That is such a common theme in teacher parents. We can wow a class of 30. Not many people know this about me. I consider myself the nap queen. If your kids in your class aren't going down for nap time, I could get them to go to sleep. Side note, but here's what you do. Not only do you gaslight them into thinking they're sleepy, you're walking around the room, you're narrating, you're like, oh my gosh, friends, you're so tired. You're sleepy. You're playing in the background like that 720 HZ miracle tone music from Spotify. That shit is on like 11. It's like
The room is vibrating.
So the key, and I learned this from my friend Valerie, I don't know where she learned it. The key is the sticker fairy. You carry around a pack of stickers and you say, if you are so still that I think you might be asleep, the sticker fairy will come and visit you. And while they are just like laying there, you drop a sticker on their hand if they're quiet. And if there's somebody next to them on their mat and they see that somebody got a sticker, they're immediately like, I can get anybody's class asleep.
You should make teacher nap time ASMR. I think this would do very well. I think if you made Spotify recordings of you with the in the background and then you were like, friend, you're getting so sleepy, I think people would use that.
Fraz, did you have nap time in kindergarten?
I did at my old school because we had school from 7:15 to 4:15.
Is that legal?
So they had a nap time. I don't think they're allowed to have nap time in kindergarten.
I used to always tell my early Head Start kids that hated nap time, I'd be like, well, when you're big and you're in kindergarten, no one's going to make you take a nap. So you only have to put up with nap time right now. So, night-night.
That's what I thought.
So now my district that I was at last year, they went from half day to full day kindergarten for the very first time. And they have like rest time, but they don't have quite as long of a day. So they have to like rest. Anyways, so all this, I know. So all this to say, I've heard this from teacher parents a lot, where like you are very capable of like commanding a classroom of students, and they love you, they adore you, like you said, you're a celebrity every day, and then your child is like not impressed,
mediocre.
No.
My mother has a theory about this.
Oh yeah?
My mom has this theory that no matter what your mother is doing, you don't think it's impressive because it's your mom. And you're just like hardwired to be that way. And she like developed this theory because a friend of hers is a in utero pediatric neurosurgeon. Is either like neuro or lung, something absolutely insanely difficult of a job.
And like a hero.
Yes, literally. She's like one of the few people in the US that does it. People have to like fly to see her, like so impressive. She was going to the parent-teacher conference of her child, and the teacher was like, oh yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you because you also work in childcare. And she was like, no I don't, like what are you talking about? And she was like, oh, your daughter has always said my mom works with babies. That's all she ever says about your job. My mom does public speaking a lot, and I've always been really comfortable with it. A one-on-one conversation makes me want to bury my head into the sand, but I feel like whatever you've seen your mother doing, you're like, that's not hard, I can do that. And it's just like immediately not impressive to you. So that makes sense that teacher kids would be like, okay.
And what else? Give me the old razzle dazzle, Mom.
I think your theory's spot on. Even this year I got to do like a guest spot in her class. And then on our way home, I was like, wasn't it so cool? I never teach first grade. She goes, I thought it would be more fun.
Oh my gracious. She's hilarious. She's a star.
She's a definitely musical theater child.
You
for
got
sure.
exactly what you could have ever dreamed of.
She is everything I said I wanted.
Do you still have your pod, and do you still send them the things, and is that still happening?
On the Facebooks?
I do, like the subscription?
Yeah, like are you still making your content online? How is it going? I don't want to say post-COVID, because that'll never happen, but you know what I'm trying to say. I know what you mean. Post us being forced to go back to where we are now.
To pretend that nothing's wrong.
Yes, everything kind of evolved over time with kids going back to school, and so I still have my 4 to 5 year old subscription for hands-on learning at home, but then somebody called me up and said, I want one activity a week because I'm a working mom and I don't have time to do this when I get home, but I want to be like a weekend warrior. I want to do something that'll make me look cool, even though that might be impossible as a mom, but like get cool credit with you, but also that helps you learn on the weekend. So I created like a weekend warriors program. And then the big thing that I was getting a lot of, like, can you help me get my kid ready for kindergarten? I ended up like privately working with different people who heard about the program, but they wanted it more specific for their child's either special needs or medical needs and like modified for them. And then I thought, oh, well, what if I created like a kindergarten readiness program that was just like a 2-month thing that you could do in the summer, but that's ended up kind of taking off and people are doing it just during the year because they're like, oh, I wonder where my kid is and if they have the skills to be ready. There's this whole obsession with like readiness for kindergarten. And though, yes, I want kids to come in with a really solid solid foundation. I also don't want parents to feel stressed. Like, it doesn't have to be this big, giant thing that you're either ready or you're not. Like, it's your teacher's job to help you get where you need to go.
It's not like on the first day of kindergarten, there's like, you walk in and they're like, not ready, turn around. To the mines you go.
You can't come in.
It is quite the obsession, though.
Yes, it's a big thing.
Even like homework. My parents would always be asking me, like, why isn't so-and-so getting homework? And I'm like, because they're 5 and like they're fine.
I know, Redacted, you're anti-homework, right?
For elementary, I'm staunchly anti-homework other than choice reading. I think choice reading is a great thing to be doing at home. For high school, I am anti-homework except for homework as a punishment for bad time management. So I would always assign the amount of work that I felt was appropriate for them to get done in my 90-minute class period if they were being on task and efficient. And if you chose to not be on task and efficient, that's your problem, my friend. So I would usually have our classwork be due the class period after I assigned it, and I had some kids who did all of the work for my class at home. So I'm kind of like, that's my stance on homework, especially because I feel like at a lot of high schools, like the one I went to, you're just doing rigorous work all day and then your brain is just really tired. So you need to be engaging in a different activity. So to me, if like there is homework, it needs to be something that's purposeful and not just more of what you're doing at school. Because like when I was in school, I remember I would get home and try and do my homework and I was just so tired of reading. Like I'd just been reading dense, boring material all day that my brain was just tired of that. And I'm sure there's other muscles in my brain that I could have been working, like problem solving and creativity things. So I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being staunchly anti-homework, I would say I'm like an 8.
I think that kindergarten, no on the homework.
Yeah.
At my previous school where I had my own classroom, we were required to do a homework packet.
Same.
So you would have to have like a Monday through Thursday. But then I had a lot of super involved parents that wanted additional stuff, or especially if their kid was higher performing, they wanted something more challenging, which I get. But then I would also slip something in the packet for kids who needed a little bit extra practice. And it was so tedious. And I loved that school, but just homework for that age group is basically either completely done by the parents, or
oh my god,
or it was just silly, like busy work. Like, I'm really not anti-worksheet. I get worksheets have a place, but I want things to be hands-on. I want kids to love it. And with homework and the worksheets and the sitting there, and you have to do it because your teacher said so, it makes kids not like it. And that, I'm not into that.
I think it kind of robs kids of a love of learning. And the part of homework that really bothers me as a teacher is it can create such a rift between kids and their parents.
Yep.
I think it can cause so much tension and so much stress for both parties involved. My parents were lucky, and I was lucky to be in the position that when I was in middle school and really struggling with math and had a lot of homework every night, and I was just really having a hard time, that after like 3 weeks of helping me, my parents were like, we're hiring a tutor because this is like destroying our relationship with you. Like, you're crying, you're stressed, we're stressed, this is terrible.
I hear that a lot. I did it on my own. My parents were like, we don't know this language and it's just all too hard. I think my dad always tells this story where it was maybe first or second grade and I needed help with a problem, and I walked up to him and I said, can you help me with this? And he said, okay. And he like had this look on his face, and I said, Dad, are you sweating? It's okay, I'll do it on my own. And I just walked away and I found like different surrogate parents, my friends' parents who were American born, who were like, oh yeah, I'll help you with their homework here or there. And it was really great. Like, they all helped me. And my dad is wonderful and very smart. But yeah, it's very different across cultures too. As a parent, not as a teacher, what do you think of parents who are like, I'm just not going to do the homework with my kid?
See, this is, you know what, Ashley? This is a comment on TikTok that I have been actually avoiding answering over and over again. People ask me and I'm like, I'm not going to answer that. But it's a good question, because here's the thing.
Okay, don't answer.
No answer.
No, I'll answer it. This is the right forum. I think it is so disrespectful. There's a line for me where it's like, as an adult, I stand in front of back to school night and I'm like, I don't give a shit if your kid does their homework. I really don't. I think it's more important that you're reading and spending time together as a family. I don't care if this packet comes back done, because I'm going to throw it away. You're going to bring the packet to me. I'm going to receive it and throw it in the trash. I'm not even going to flip through it. And I tell them that. I don't say shit, but I'm pretty candid about it. But there are parents that want the extra practice. I am required to give it. I'm not going to pretend like I'm thrilled about it. But I do think there is a certain way to talk about your kid's teacher in front of them, barring any sort of like extreme negligence, abuse, like something going on in the classroom that's just not okay. That's separate. I'm talking about like your run-of-the-mill, like your teacher asked you to do homework. Do not sit in front of your kid and be like, this is bullshit. You're not doing homework. But if a parent comes to me, adult to adult, and they're like, hey, this isn't working for our family. Like, I work night shift. Like, I just can't make this work. I'm like, okay, totally fine. Like, let's work out something else or nothing at all. Maybe it's just totally fine to just say, forget it. I would prefer to handle it that way versus instilling in a child's brain that it's okay to disrespect the teacher. Like, that's just my personal take. And I'm sure because I am the way that I am, there is no way that Jay is going to have 100% wonderful teachers that I am going to be like, gold stamp, A+. But I'm not going to look at Jay and be like, your teacher's an idiot. Like, that's not going to be a thing.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't help.
Me with my non-existent children, I feel the same way. I would definitely be the parent that, not even for reasons like my work schedule, I would just be like, we don't do homework in this house because I just, like, as a person, don't believe in that. But my child would never know that there was a rift between me and their teacher. I'd be like, me and Bestie discussed it and you're exempt. Like, no email threads exist. Absolutely.
Is this a good time to tell my child's teacher that we are not doing homework this year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would. I fully would.
I'm obsessed with my child's teacher. I think she's so cool. And I was like, even last year in kindergarten, I was like, I've already planned to be best friends with you, whether or not, like, you knew me. We're going to be best friends. And then we ended up colleagues and it worked out. But then with her first grade teacher, who has been giving out homework, I legit have never had her sit down to do it. And I keep meaning to bring it up and say, we're just not going to do it. But not to be disrespectful, obviously, but just because I think choice reading is a better thing for where she is at her level. I look through the packet and I'm like, okay, if she needs to know any of these skills and she doesn't already know them, we'll review them. But I still am like, I haven't talked to her about the why. And I talk to her all the time. It just hasn't come up. And I'm like, I don't know if I was nervous to be like, hey, I'm just not going to do homework, or it just keeps slipping my mind. But maybe I'll tell her tomorrow, or maybe she'll listen to this podcast.
Or maybe you don't tell her. I mean, there's also the adult thing of just not doing something and not talking about it.
That's so adult. It's so adult.
And you also never know. She could have the same stance as Fraz and be in the same situation where she's like, yeah, I'm required to give this packet, but I don't even check it. So she might not even know. Or if you told her, she might be like relieved and be like, oh, thank God, I noticed she wasn't doing it and I really didn't want to have to talk about it with you because I don't actually care.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But I just keep being like, whenever we do get it, I'm like, let me see this packet. Okay, I think I'm going to have you read stuff instead. And always to be respectful to my children's teachers. And I have been so lucky that they're all people that I genuinely think are so awesome at teaching that I could learn so much from. But yeah, God help me if I get someone I don't feel that way about.
Totally, same. I think the argument is always it teaches responsibility. I do not think that it does, personally, at that age level. I think when you get older, sure, but like in kindergarten?
I think it's a good way to review stuff or to communicate in the younger grades. It's different in older grades, obviously, but it's a communication piece between home and school. And so if the parents see the homework, they know what you're working on, and then they can reinforce that at home in any way that they choose to do.
But how many parents are going to do that?
I don't know. But
we will.
I'm like, oh, I see you are at the blends part.
The ones in this podcast.
Number bonds. Okay.
Yeah, we will. And so that's what...
Get the hula hoops, baby.
I get so excited, like, oh, how do you feel about this? Vowel teams. Hooray.
You're subtracting now?
Your child's like, I've been dealing with this fucking bullshit all day. She's like, I've been dealing with number bonds all day. And now in the comfort of my home, you're gonna bring this up?
In kindergarten, I just love the milestones. Like, I love going from one-to-one correspondence to, like, simple addition and number bonds.
It's beautiful.
And then when they're subtracting, I wrote a song about subtracting, and it is really good.
Sing it.
Drop the single.
It's to Post Malone's Sunflower. Needless to say, I can subtract. And I forget the rest of it. I'll just send you the lyrics and sing it for you and perform.
Please do.
It's really fun when they can do that. But like, I do agree, it's such a good communicative piece.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look, you're doing this now. Cool, you're doing that. But obviously, like, parents will always be like, well, not every teacher is like you. And I'm sure that you're like me, where we're like always talking to my parents. I'm always posting on Dojo. I send home so much stuff, like just messaging out, because especially with Common Core, I want them to know why we're teaching it this way and why this is like a new thing. And I don't want them to feel like this isn't how we did it, like screw this. I want them to be a partner with me. And then people will always say, well, my kid's teacher wasn't like that, so I was this way towards them. And I will agree, like, I don't have the life experience to fill in those gaps because I'm not like that. I'm not a parent with a kid in school. But at the same time, it's like, I still maintain that shit talking your child's teacher in front of your child is not necessarily good in any way.
No, it's definitely not.
It's confusing.
Me and my mom used to like psychoanalyze my teachers and be like, this probably happened to her and that's why she's like this. Like, it's like a level above shit talking.
My mom always went in and like raised hell.
My mom was a Karen with me because I'm the youngest. So with my sister, she was like, I can't be too much of a Karen because then they'll hate me and I gotta get another one through this bitch.
Oh, I love that.
But like by my senior year, she was in that all.
Mine wasn't, and I kind of don't think that she ever felt invited to the party. I think, you know, that there's like a PTA mom culture of parents who do everything for the school and the school really loves them and they're like the go-to moms. And then there are a lot of moms who are like, oh, maybe I would if I felt invited, but in my experience as a first generation American and also as somebody who works at a Title I school where most of the kids don't speak English as their primary language, I feel like we have to work really hard to invite parents, not just say like, oh yeah, the door's open, but reach out and say, we want you as our teammate because you know your child better than anyone. And if you're not on board, if you're shit talking the teacher, there's no way this time is going to be worth it at all. It needs to be a partnership. And so I love parents and I love communicating with them. And I think that they're the people who are, like you've always said, who are going to advocate for us and for their kids.
Ashley, as usual, you just like say shit from my brain. You're an extension of my body. Like anything Ashley says, just pretend I'm like in the background like, yeah, that. Like, yes.
I love you.
I also think what you were saying about like parents not feeling invited in this PTA mom culture, I also feel like there's such like a stereotype and an archetype of how to be involved, and it's such a high level of involvement that most people who work and have a full-time job cannot do that. So I think creating like really accessible ways to be involved that are not a massive commitment.
Yes.
So because it's really easy to look at someone who's hosting all the brunches, bringing the little cute things they stayed up all night making at drop off every day, and you're like, well, I can't do that, so I guess I can't be involved at all. So I think like schools need to do a good job of making opportunities that are a 5-minute commitment, a 5-hour commitment, a 5-day commitment, like things across the spectrum of ways to engage that don't require every second of your life. And also, side note, I hate how a lot of school events are at like, and I understand logistics are a thing, I get there's reasoning behind everything, but from like a parent perspective, I feel awful when schools have events that are in the middle of the day, because are you supposed to drop your child off at school, leave, come back, leave again, and then come back again to pick them up? Like so many of the ways that we schedule things are just like not conducive to family and community involvement.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, it's so important. And, you know, it really doesn't matter how we connect. There's nothing at all in my brain that's like, that parent has never come to school. Like, I really don't care because I know that they love their child. I know that they want the best for their child. They're working. Like, I'm working. When I have a child, if I'm teaching, I'm not going to be able to leave in the middle of the day if she's at a different school and go to her Christmas concert because I'll have my own kids at school. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stigmas that exist, and we have to like mindfully break those.
We do. I would have so many parents show up to parent-teacher conferences and say, I feel so guilty as a working parent. I can't provide the same level of help to you as this mom. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You are an emotional support. You brought in those issues, like things you cut for me that one time and saved me from doing busy work.
Yes.
Like there are so many ways to be a support to your child's teacher besides being in the classroom. And of course we adore parents who can come and support and do class parties, but that's not the only way to help your kid's teacher. Just the support of talking nicely about them, that is supporting the teacher. And that's up to the teacher to create that as well with the parents. Like one of my things I would always do the first week, I could see who my troublemakers were going to be. And I would try to focus on like things they did in the classroom that I really liked. And I would write an email home to the parent like, I just want to say I really enjoyed working with your kid this week. They did this and this and this, and I hope to build a partnership with you in the future. And that was like the kind of thing they needed from me, like, okay, you're going to be on my side. And it was genuine stuff. It wasn't bullshit. It was like, I see these things. And then later when I brought up issues that were happening, they were going to give me the benefit of the doubt because they know it's not an us against them. And that's like a whole thing I always see in lots of different schools. It's us as the teachers against them as the parents. And it shouldn't be that way. I'm both. And we need each other. We really need each other to not burn out as teachers and to help the kids get to that next level. It's going to take those parents to say, yes, I'm going to support you in that behavior plan or in making sure I do letter swat it on the wall with them like a couple times each week to get them up there. Because we all just want the same thing, which is for our kids to excel and thrive.
Yes, same team.
I think a lot of people in secondary are also really hesitant to like try and build parent relationships, and it's definitely something that I wish I had done more of. I feel like the ones I had were great. I had quality over quantity mentality, and I wish I was able to make more of them. But I have saw a lot of other secondary teachers who would be like, oh, I don't want to bother them. Like, I don't want to do a positive call home. I don't want to interrupt them or whatever. But I think, more dramatic than I experienced with the little kids that I worked with when I did positive calls home for teenagers, because almost every single time that I did it, I would get such an emotional reaction. And I had a mom cry on the phone with me literally within 5 minutes. And she said, I've never received a positive call about my child at school their entire life. And they were 17. And like that mom, she would have done anything for me at that point. And that kid was always an angel in my class. So like, especially in upper grades where like they probably haven't had a super strong teacher connection in recent history, just because that's kind of the nature of upper grades. I think a lot of secondary teachers feel like it's going to be harder to build the relationship, but in my experience, it can kind of be easier because they're like, the parents are more open to it and like, oh my God, you're calling me? No one calls me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's such a sweet story. I love that because I don't know what it looks like to do parent interactions in the upper grades, and it clearly meant so much to them.
That was like my second year teaching, I think, and that's when I started to prioritize parent relationships a lot more. My first year, I didn't really have any, and then my second year, after I experienced that, it was pretty early on in the year too, I was like, wow, this is a really powerful tool that I have not been using, and after that, I tried to be better about it.
So parents founded my last school, and so they were like, the parents have a lot of input at this school and you need to listen to them. And so I took that in, and what I heard was you should make sure that you bond with the parents by taking them out to karaoke each year and making sure they get really drunk and have a good time, but you stay sober because you're the teacher and you're a professional.
I love that idea.
Our parents would get so close. We did it every year, and it was like insane fun. Some of the best nights of my life, because then we became from like a class of strangers, we became like this family, and those parents are still leaders in that school because they felt like they really belonged and they were invited to literally the party.
I love that. When I go back, I'm going to do
Parents
that.
are our partners.
The literal party.
It was the best.
My first class of parents kind of invited me to the party because it was a very like close-knit school. I had 4 room moms because they all wanted to be room moms and I couldn't pick. So I was like, okay, you can all be room moms.
You had sister wife room moms?
Yeah, I didn't want to tell them no. And they were like, well, I'll do class parties. I'll do busy work. I'll do like they delegated amongst themselves. And I was like, that's amazing.
When I was in kindergarten, my mom was half a room mom. All the other room moms didn't work, and her and another working mom each took 2 Fridays a month. They were like, we'll be part-time room moms together.
That is awesome. Oh, I love room moms.
They would invite me to like park days and ice cream days. So I would sit with the moms and the kids would go play and I would just be able to get close with them, and it was really cool. Like, you go from being teacher to being like a community member with them.
It's like a breaking down of barriers.
Beautiful.
Like, I feel like you both kind of take your character mode off. You're in teacher character and they're in parent character. But once you break down that wall, you're just both being a person.
Exactly.
It shifted everything for me.
Yeah, I learned a lot of parenting from my room moms.
Oh, me too. I would always be like, what did you do?
Totally.
And like collecting those pieces of advice already shaping me as a parent and as a teacher.
Yes.
Puts everything in perspective for me. And then at my next school where there was really no parent involvement, I would often have parents come to me very heated about something. And just by like listening and being like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was going on. I'm mad too. Like, I don't want your child to feel X, Y, or Z at school. Like, and then immediately they would like soften. And I mean, they're coming to you with emotion. It's anger, but you just meet them where they are and you're like, no, same team. Like, I want to figure this out. Like, let's go sit down and have some coffee. They're just like, oh, like they feel heard and seen. And that's all we want as parents. You know, we want somebody that's looking out for our kid when we can't be with our kid. It's really impactful. I don't know. It makes me really happy that you're doing that. It makes me sad that your mom felt that way, but obviously she had a daughter that shaped you as a professional and how you engage with your parents. And I think that that's really cool.
It has shaped me in so many ways because I do see similar situations now at a school where I don't get to interact with parents at all, except for the ones that are like my kids' friends' parents. But just feeling like I can see my mom and a lot of these moms, like, how are we making them feel comfortable to join us in the conversation for their kids? And like, especially with COVID, that was so complicated because we weren't allowed to have parents on campus. And now there are other rules about having parents on campus. And what should that look like in the future? And how can we make them feel welcome is a big question mark.
Yeah.
We have to have a karaoke party.
We have to.
It's a good strategy.
Maybe the U.S. Department of Education just needs like a mass karaoke party. We just karaoke till it's better.
I think that would be a wonderful idea.
At a sushi bar.
Hell yeah! Actually, I think like what you're doing, bringing this educational knowledge to parents in a very accessible way, coupled with your work as an interventionist in your daughter's school, you're bringing parents into the conversation, parent to parent. You're just doing so much good and you're bringing so much positive energy into the education world. And I'm so happy to like have this time. Do you have any like advice for any teachers? Maybe future teachers, current teachers, whatever.
Past teachers.
People thinking about being past teachers. People on their way to work.
People with their finger hovering over that send button.
I think that from my experiences in rejoining the teacher force, you know what you're doing. Don't have that self-doubt that you can't go back because too much time has passed or because people won't accept you or, you know, teaching is supposed to be a job that is conducive to maybe starting a family where you could leave and come back or taking breaks for medical needs or something else. But there is always this feeling like, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm going to have to contend with the ghost of pre-mom teacher who was really epic, but now I can't give that much anymore because I don't want my kids to get leftovers of me. I want to be able to give them the best of me when I get home. I think that there are places for you to go in and use your skills, and you still have those skills, and they can just be hibernating for a while and they can come out in different ways. You're so needed. And I also, one of the things I was worried about was like, would the other teachers want me? Would they accept me as part of their team as this person who's been out or expected an interview, like to be asked like, why did you leave for so long? No one cares. People are excited. Teachers love teachers. We want to meet other teachers. We want to be friends with other teachers. And when you come in there with a positive attitude and you're willing to be a part of a team and take work off somebody else's plate and share resources and just be a positive person, like you're gonna find your teacher family, even if you think your last school is the best. Oh, well, your new school could be full of friends too. But I was nervous about going to my new school and I thought like nobody's gonna like me and I'm not gonna make any friends. And then I have like this group of teacher besties at my new school and it's given me a lot that I didn't have as a mama. like I missed that part of me.
Wow.
One of the dope things about education is that, like, there's essentially unlimited school. There's so many different ways to teach. Like, it's not like you work in, like, plant-based IT or something where there's, like, 3 companies that do it. So if you have a bad situation at one, you're just kind of screwed. There's so many different types of school, types of learning environment, so many different ways to engage that, like, if teaching is what you're about, even if you leave, even if you want to come back, there's always going to be a plethora of opportunities and situations available.
I'm crying because it gave me, like, it's just, I don't know.
It hit where you needed it to hit.
Yeah. I've never cried on the podcast before. This is the first time.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what we said that triggered this. I want to know more. I
don't know. I think there's this fear, like, when you leave. Like, she is my dream right now. Like, I've always wanted her. And at the same time, I've always wanted to be a teacher. And these things feel like they can't exist in the same lifetime, but they can and they will. I think that's why, like, I've always been, like, really drawn to you, because you have done both so beautifully and so successfly. And I just hope that, like, your journey is the journey that I end up on, you know?
We're all gonna cry.
I love being a woman.
I love being a woman.
The way that we're all crying.
No, but, like, I really mean it. It just means so much to me that, like, you took the time to, like, come and talk with us today, because I feel like your experience is something that so many of us are afraid to take the leap to do. And I don't know, it's just really wonderful. So I'm really thankful for you. And yes, I love being a woman. Somebody was like, tag somebody who makes you love being a woman the other day, and they tagged me and you redacted, and I was like, fuck.
Wait, where? Send it to me. Why don't you send me these things?
I'll find it. So that's why I think I'm crying.
That is so emotional and beautiful.
My child's like, what's wrong with you?
No, it's important for her to see you cry, because it is okay to cry for everybody, grown-ups and kids. And it humanizes us as grown-ups and teachers.
So true.
I'm so completely honored to be on here. I don't ever consider myself to be a funny person, so it's just really cool to be in this funny sandwich and be funny associated.
You are funny. So you have the most important funny feature, is that you know how to laugh, because a lot of people don't know how to laugh, and that makes them the worst.
Amen.
If you're one of those people listening, you can grow. So I'm just saying this to inspire you and light a fire under your ass. Thank you. That literally means so much to me, though. I would say that's my number one talent, is just making something boring a good time.
She's so funny.
For real.
Ashley, you've been amazing, though. And I'm also, like, nerding out a little bit, because I taught Early Head Start for, like, 5 minutes. At just the resources that you make and how you make it, like, so easy for parents to engage. I think it's something that's so needed, because it's so intimidating to try and create your own stuff to engage with your spawn.
Thank you. This means the world to me.
And thank you to all of our listeners. This was like an actually inspiring episode.
This is a fucking good episode. Rate this shit.
If you didn't like this episode, take a hard look in the mirror. Also, join us on Patreon, where you can give us your money for some stuff. I'll let our business manager explain the rest.
We did, as you can tell, launch a very new Patreon. We have no idea how to explain that to you. But we are having a little gals night in at the end of February for everyone who signs up for our Patreon in the first month. Get your cute little hiney over there.
HR has entered the chat. If you have ever been at home and you're like, wow, I'm so bored and alone, it'd be way cooler if I had some kind of awkward people from the internet on Zoom with me with some other random people I don't know. This is the opportunity that you have been waiting for. Also, we're gonna record some Patreon only episodes that are gonna be more of like an overshare vibe about like our love lives, our childhoods, our trauma.
Redacted made a list.
The list literally says abusive relationships, ? Might be too heavy, but I'm down.
It literally says I'm down.
The end.
That really was just a long-winded outro. Love you guys. Bye.